Welcome back to Learn Create Sew. We've got a pretty fun tutorial for you today. This year, with things being so stressful, I decided to learn how to crochet as a way to relax, and it has been super fun. One of the first projects I made was this beanie, which I really liked. It's super simple, it's just half double crochet, and I'll put the written pattern on my website. But there are a lot of wonderful tutorials online that will show you how to crochet the beanies. After I finished my beanie, what I decided I wanted was a little fur pom-pom. So today I'm going to show you how to make your own fur pom-poms that you can use to attach to any project you like. So let's get started. To make the fur pom-pom, you're going to want a piece of faux fur fabric, some heavyweight thread. I'm using button and craft thread from Coats & Clark, which works really great. You also want some poly-fil stuffing and hand needles. You can print out the free pattern for the pom-pom on my website, which is linked in the description below, and it's available in many different sizes. Today I'm going to be making the 6-inch circle. Take your fur fabric and turn it right side down. Place your pattern piece on the back and trace it. I just like to use Sharpie. When you cut out fur fabric, you have to be careful. You don't want to cut in large snips like this, because then you could accidentally cut the hairs on the fabric, which will make your pom-pom look funny. So when you cut the fur, you only want to cut the backing. So you can see, if you look close here, that all of the little hairs from the fur are attached to a piece of fabric on the back. We only want to cut the back. As a result, when we cut out the fabric, we're going to use our scissors and cut in really tiny snips. So you don't want to open your scissors hardly at all. If you have a small pair of scissors, that usually helps as well. So I'm going to cut around the circle, but in really tiny snips. And I'm not going to open my scissors all the way because I don't want to cut the hairs. I only want to cut the fabric backing. After you've cut the backing, gently pull the fur away around the edges, and you'll see that the strands of hair separate. Next, we're going to select our needle. When you choose the needle that you use to do this, you want it to be kind of long and very narrow. You're also going to need a little bit larger eye because we're going to be using the heavier weight thread. So I'm going to select this needle here, which is quite long and has a larger eye, but it's still skinny. Then cut a piece of button thread, and you want it to be quite long. And you'll want to double thread your needle. So we're going to be sewing with 2 strands of the thread, so pull it until the ends are together. And tie your knot. We're going to be stitching all the way around the edge of the circle with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and our stitches are going to be about 3/8 of an inch to a 1/2 inch long and about 3/8 of an inch to a 1/2 inch apart. I'm going to start from the right side of the fabric. So I'm going to poke my needle down through the fur about 1/4 of an inch away from the edge. So I'm going from the front to the back. I'm not going to pull the thread all the way through. I'm going to leave about 8 inches free. And these 8 inches are going to be used as a tie if you want to tie your pom-pom to something else. I'm going to do a small stitch here, about 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch wide, and I'm going to go right back to my first stitch where I put the thread through. So you can see that they're now, both ends of my thread are both coming up from the right side, and I have one little stitch there on the back. And I'm simply going to tie this into a knot, and I'm going to tie it twice. And I want it to be good and strong. I'm going to bring my needle back down about 1 centimeter away, 1/4 inch from the edge, and poke it through to the back. And now I'm going to stitch all the way around. Don't forget to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance. If you start to run out of thread, just give it a little tug and start pulling it closed and continue sewing. When you get to the end, poke the needle back out next to your original stitch. Leave a little space in between, but you want them both going out at the same place. Then pull your thread to cup the fabric. You'll notice that the edges of the fur pull up, making a little cup. Now it's time to fill it with some stuffing. Make sure to fluff your stuffing, rip it into tiny pieces so it's not clumped up. When you're filling the pom-pom, you don't want to fill it too much. You don't want your pom-pom to be super heavy. You want just enough stuffing to give it shape, and that's it. So let's go ahead and fill the pom-pom. And pull the string. And close it tight. For this part, if you have someone who can help you, it's nice to have another pair of hands to help hold it. And then you're going to go ahead and tie the 2 strands together, good and tight. And I'm going to tie that one more time just to make sure it's really strong. If you can still see a little bit of stuffing like I can, you can go ahead and stitch around one more time. So just take small stitches randomly around that circle and then pull it tight again. So I'm just going to go through some of these folds here. And I find it's helpful if you hold your thread high so that the hairs around the edges don't get caught inside. So I'm just going to hold my thread high. And once you've gone all the way around, pull it tight again. And this should close it right up. Tie your knot. Pull it tight. I like to tie this a few times. And then I'm going to take my thread, and they're both on the same side of the pom-pom right now. So I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to poke it through so that the other side of thread comes out on the other side of the pom-pom. This will give it a little stability when I tie it on to the next object. And if you want to, you can tie a knot to secure that, but you really don't have to. So I now have 2 ties to hold this. I am going to tie a knot at the end so that I make sure that these 2 strands of thread go together. So you can see I've got a knot right there next to my needle, and I'm going to trim this off. If If that's all you need, you're done. I kind of like to have 4 strands to tie. I find it's a little bit more secure. So I'm going to cut another piece of thread and I'm going to double thread it as before. And I'm going to thread it through the pom-pom going the opposite direction. So you can see that these threads are going this way. And I'm going to take these threads and go this way. So I'm going to poke it in about 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch this way and go up 3/4 inch from the center this way and pull it. I'm going to take off the needle and tie a knot on this end. I now have a nice furry pom-pom with 4 strands to tie. It's good and strong, and I like to fluff it, so I just like to shake it out, and then I'm going to attach it to my beanie. And I now have a nice fur pom-pom on the top of my beanie, and that's all there is to it. You can also choose to stitch the pom-pom directly to your project if you don't want to just tie it on. And that makes it just a bit stronger. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope you'll join us next time at Learn, Create, Sew. Happy sewing!